This is a insurance carrier, also extremely large, top 10 insurance company in the U.S., over 60 locations, and some of the same pain points, some of the same things we saw in the other organization, but some that are different also. So they were looking to, after an employee left, they want to be able to manage it and offboard that user. They also wanted to be able to time it sometimes. So sometimes the user was going to be leaving, but they wanted to be able to keep their UC in place for 60 days afterward, or a period of time afterward. You could do that as well. M&A, common theme, little less so in the insurance space, but also common. The other thing that's different here is they had a significant contact center need. So they had a lot of what they call MACDs, moves, adds, changes, deletions for their UC users around contact center. Not surprising. Those employees are oftentimes brought on. Sometimes it's seasonal, but oftentimes it's short term, and they need to either quickly provision and or deprovision those users and be able to manage that process. So their goals were, in this case, they had a homegrown solution in combination with an automated provisioning solution they had in a few of the locations. So not everywhere, but in some locations. And they were looking to just automate that entire process, again, with provisioning and deprovisioning. In terms of outcomes, I'll focus on the last one, and this is kind of the punchline, and we've seen this over and over. So for this organization, their to provision and deprovision was typically a 30-minute process, is what they calculated it to be. And again, with Kurmi, this was sub 1 minute, oftentimes fully automated. So we're looking at a 95% gain in time, or reduction in time utilized to do these things, and it was delegated to the right people. So the right help desk people that needed to do it, they're able to do it. And it took a lot of that strain off the IT team, and they could focus on other things. So again, I'm going to hand this back to Jeff, and you're going to get to see a little bit of this in action with the Kurmi product. But I think good to hear sort of the outcomes that we're seeing. And this has been deployed for about 2 years with this customer.
Sure. So in this case, it is finally going to be, how do we actually look at either from an engineering view, and then also how we to be looking at this as a delegated view instead. So if initially we're going to be looking at this, we're going to see all the sites all at once. We'll actually be looking at how everything was actually fully set up. But now we actually want to see what this is going to look like if you were to actually log in as a help desk team member. So it's basically going to be very simple, but this would be, if you were that full admin, what you're going to be looking at first. You want to make sure you're only going to be looking at across all the locations. You may have a local IT team instead who also needs to really be able to put this in and make sure it's really going to be switched over instead. So it's going to be something as simple, but that login is only going to see these particular users in that particular location, or based on that function. So you can see just everything got a lot smaller. There's only fewer users to be able to manage instead, but you're going to be looking at from location. It may also be based on specific technologies, but they would also have fewer functions as well. So in this case, the user list wind up dropping to far fewer, but basically they still have a lot of the same access, but it's really dependent on how you would actually like to have things set up instead. So it's fully controllable. And again, there won't necessarily be touching your PBXs. So you also have that additional level of security, making sure that no one's actually be touching anything they necessarily shouldn't be. So I just want to switch gears real quickly as well and show you. So if that was actually to have a help desk help you out and do some of these tasks instead, let's actually see if it would be so automated. You could have HR actually provisioning your users for you instead. So this is actually if we actually did connect this into ServiceNow. So you can see already that we're going to have a users are actually going to be set up here. And so if you've got a user, and these are all going to be entered in via Entra ID, could also be Active Directory. We work with both, but in this case, we've got Adele, and we'll see that Adele doesn't have a phone number, but she has a department. She doesn't really have any services. We just know she happens to be a Microsoft user. But instead, we need to go in and actually assign her some roles and responsibilities. So in this case, all we need to do is update her package package basically meaning also her profile of what her phone number or phone system should be, which should be based on location and function. So we just search for Adele's name, we find it. Again, we already know she's in HR. We already know that she's just an Entra ID user at this point. And then all we have to do is just go in. She's going to be a Teams-based user with voice. We're going to HR could actually do this as simply as possible. And actually, as the new users get onboarded, let's just check and see if it's working. Looks like it is. Now we'll switch back over and look at it on the side with, see if, we'll go back and check and see if Adele's actually been changed. Well, it looks like she's been updated, and it will take a few minutes to actually call out to Teams. It's just the nature of working with Microsoft. But now we see she has a phone number been assigned, and all of the services have also been added. Very, very simple to actually be able to take care of these things instead. So there's a lot of chances, and also you can actually really automate this and make it even for non-technical users as well.